Welcome to the Goody Room, your one-stop shop for everything movies, TV, and more. We know you want the goodies. Welcome back to another episode of the Goody Room. I'm Matt the Nachos. With me always is my festive friend this episode, Frankie Rock. How we doing, Frank?
We're doing good. Well, actually, excuse me. We're doing holly jolly over here. Very holly jolly.
That's right. It is our Christmas episode, so we only got one thing to say to you people.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.
We didn't even give you to the count of 10. We just went right into it, right? There are no warnings here.
That's because, you were smooching with everybody.
Yeah.
Matt, I got to tell you, you're looking good today in your ugly sweater. I'm a little disappointed, though, that you trimmed off all the jingle bells off of it because it didn't feel right this year at Ugly Sweater. I didn't know where you were at. You were like the wind. You were moving all around, all silent like.
Yeah, so if you're on YouTube, we are wearing our ugly Christmas sweaters. Frank's even got a little Santa hat on, but I am wearing one. I'll lean off to the side for a little bit. Lights up. If you seen Jim Carrey the Grinch, it's the same sweater he wears at the holiday Hoobie Wuddy. But what Frank is referring to is it used to have jingle bells all up and down the sleeves, and he had a party, ugly Christmas sweater party, and you could literally hear me like going up the stairs, walking down the hallway. Like you could find me anywhere, and it got too annoying. I said enough's enough, and I cut him off this year.
Right. No one knew where he was at this year. We almost sent out a search party.
You think I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows.
You think I'm hiding in the snow, but I am the snow.
You'll never see me coming.
Well, it's funny that you reference Iron Man 3. Let me ask you this. Would you consider Iron Man 3 a Christmas movie?
I would not.
I would not either. But I did watch a video on YouTube today where someone made a case for Batman Returns being a Christmas movie, and I tend to agree with that one.
That's interesting because a movie I tend to think is Christmas, and it's mainly because I just rewatch it every year, is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Every Christmas I have to journey to destroy the One Ring.
I would agree with you that those are Christmas movies because originally they all came out on Christmas, around the Christmas time. In fact, yesterday, the 17th, Return of the King turned 20 years old.
Elf is 20 years old too.
We are old. The Matrix sequels, the ones that we talk about, are 20 years old this year.
Yeah, it's fun to get into these things because we do have a couple of fun things for this episode. It's going to be our end of the year episode as well. So first, what we have up is top releases of 2023. And then similar to what we did for Halloween, we're going to talk about our holiday rewatch must. But anything more to add, Frank, before we jump into it?
Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
Ooh, hot topic. All right. Going into the first subject here, we're going to do top releases of 2023. And Frank, I would say you and I have seen quite a lot this year.
I would say, in the last couple of years with the pandemic and movie theaters being shut down, you and I were at the theater quite a bit, almost like we came back with a vengeance. We're like, we're back, baby. And I was fortunate that my wife, A, wanted to go with me to a lot of them, but B, was just like, hey, movies that she didn't necessarily want to see. She was like, you just go ahead and go alone. I was like, great, I'll go. And, I was fortunate to see not only a lot of movie releases, but, watch a lot of good stuff on TV as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think this year was probably, I got back to watching a lot of good television series. I actually went to the theater, the most I've gone since pre-pandemic, which is pretty crazy. It did slow down there. I did try to get there a few times at the end of the summer, but the releases I don't think hit as well, around this time as they did early spring. Uh,
No. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're all good. But yeah, just kind of want to talk about some top releases. What do you think? Let's do a little back and forth action. I'll give one of mine, and then you give one of yours, and we'll just pass it off.
That sounds good. Are we going to be starting out our like number one pick, or are we just going to fire them off in any order?
I'm gonna save my number one for last. I'm gonna start with kind of I think you have five. I
I
have
do.
five, and this could be movies, TV shows. I know I kind of approached it from both sides. Frank, I think you approach it more from the movies, but it's always good. I like to see the differences in our thoughts, and then give you
Right.
guys, listeners, more options.
I'm glad that you're going first because now I had to go in reverse order. Like what's five, what's four, what's three, two, one. So thank you for going first. Go ahead.
And yeah, and if there's something that I say that's on yours, just go ahead and say, that's on your list too, and
Right.
maybe have it ranked a little higher. But anyways, mine are really in no particular order. I did try to do a 1 through 5, but these are kind of a lot of these are on the equal playing field for me. But my first one is the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I absolutely could not wait for this movie to come out. I was watching the trailer, got my son hyped up on it. It's actually how he got addicted to YouTube. That's all he watches now. But I mean, Frank, tell me Super Mario Bros. Movies on yours.
So I will say that Super Mario Brothers happens to be my number 5.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're right on track here.
Look at that. So we're starting off good. It's going to get ugly towards the end, but let's just enjoy this moment of peace and being on the same page. But yeah, I remember talking to your wife last year around this time. She's like, "Are you excited about Super Mario Brothers?" And at the time I wasn't. I just was, what I was seeing in the trailers, Chris Pratt being Mario, I just wasn't on board with it. But you go to the movie, you watch it, and it's not necessarily just a movie about Mario. It's a celebration of Mario and almost everything Nintendo. And it was just such a fun movie to watch. And I've rewatched it a couple times, and I'm really pulling for Jack Black to win Best Original Song at the Oscars for Peaches.
Oh, he better. I mean, and I've rewatched it more than a few times because my kids they're obsessed with it. But you're right. It is a celebration. Although Charlie Murphy wasn't around for this celebration, but I mean that movie is just that hit on so many levels. I know people weren't happy with the Chris Pratt Mario voice. I thought the way they approached it was more than fine. I actually really enjoyed kind of that spin and take.
So I liked because, at first I was, you see the trailer and it's like, why isn't he doing the Mario voice? But then in the beginning of the movie, when they're doing the commercial, he does the voice, and it's funny. But then, afterwards he goes back to his Mario voice. And I'm glad that they did it that way, because I think an hour and a half of him doing the Mario impression would have got old like 10 minutes in.
It would have been Moon Knight all over again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just like, and if you don't know the reference Matt's making, like Oscar Isaac, who did a British accent for Moon Knight, his British accent was on like the Dick Van Dyke, Mary Poppins level of bad British accents. So
yeah, but I will say though, like there ended up being a reason, kind of
sure.
like for it. I don't know if it was done on purpose or what. But anyways, my I'm gonna go, since it was your number 5. I'm gonna go into my number 4.
Go ahead. One last couple last things about the Mario Brother movie. The Rainbow Road sequence alone was just, I was won over for the movie immediately, but when they did the Mario Kart sequence at the end and they were on Rainbow Road, that was like them taking a big punch right to the childhood in the best way possible for me.
Yeah, see, and they had me at "It's a me."
I bet you they did.
Instead of hello, they had me at "It's a me."
It's a me, Mario.
Anyways, my number 4, and I am usually not into spooky stuff, but, you know, we've talked about it on this show before. We've talked about the other series, that this guy has done, but my number 4 is The Fall of the House of Usher. Just had to make the list. I was super involved. I think I watched it all in one night, and I had to go to work the next day because I needed to know what happened.
Yeah, I didn't do TV on my list because I just was thinking about movies. I probably should have thought of more TV shows. However, if I would have done a TV list, Fall of the House of Usher, hands down, would have been my number one. Mike Flanagan, I think, is the most brilliant director working in horror right now. The way that he approaches it is like none other. And I'm always kind of like when we watch a Christopher Nolan movie, we're always curious what this guy's going to do next.
So then I'm curious then, what is your number 4?
My number 4 happens to be the Barbie movie because kind of like Mario went in with like, no, I didn't know what to expect from the movie. I went just to see Ryan Gosling because he's pretty funny. I love when he's funny. And you just watched the Barbie movie, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I just watched it and I agree. I love when he's funny, especially Crazy Stupid Love. I think that's
yes.
what it's called.
Oh, and The Big Short, the guy just knows how to pull off comedy in his own way, and it just always is funny. Um, I was very surprised that I kind of thought it was going to be Barbie was going to be on like kind of the Transformers level of storytelling, where it just, oh yeah, there's Barbie, she's walking around doing Barbie things, but no, it actually had a semi deeper story, and it had some heart tugging moments that I thought just were fantastic. And it was a pleasant surprise. I haven't rewatched it yet, but I do see that it is on HBO. So maybe over the Christmas break, I'll give it another shot.
Yeah, I'm definitely actually gonna rewatch it again. There were some funny references in there. I remember texting you, and I was like, oh man, this is so hilarious. And my wife, it's a Barbie movie, but these are like guy references and like collector and movie watcher references. Like she wouldn't understand.
All right,
I-
yeah. Are
and
you
I
talking
was
about
over there.
this? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to talk over you.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't even want to mention it because it just released on HBO or Max. Whatever they're calling themselves these days, tomato, tomato. But
Oh, they
I
changed their name like I feel like twice a year.
but yeah, for you guys listening, like watch it. It is really funny. You'll understand a lot of the Barbie references too. Now, some of them I did have to ask my wife, but I think there are more like guy movie references than there are like actual Barbie references.
So, but on the Barbie message, references though, like it was like on the scene on the beach right at the beginning, and someone got hurt, and the Barbie doctor mobile came out, and like it folded out in like the goofy way. I remember my older cousin, having that and seeing that in action. So when they saw, it, I was like, oh wow, like this is great, but. So I want to know this question since you've now seen Barbie, because there's that scene in the movie. Doesn't really spoil anything, and I feel like I'm Daniel Craig's character from Knives Out. It's like it makes no sense to me, but it confounds me. Or no, what he's saying. But they ask at one point in the movie, like, where do the Kens go at night? And that has haunted me ever since. Like, and my wife says, well, they just stay on the beach, and I don't accept that. They're like, that can't be the answer. What do you think? Where do the Kens go?
They don't go anywhere. They're like out in the desert because there wasn't like it was always Barbie's dream house. Like I don't remember there ever being Ken's dream house.
Right.
Although in Toy Story there was a Ken's dream house, so maybe that was the thing.
Oh, and that's another thing. Like I thought Michael Keaton had like full real estate and ownership on playing Ken, but Ryan Gosling was just like, hold my beer, and just, did a great job as well. And I thought Michael Cera as Alan was also pretty funny. I like the reference he made to NSYNC about all being Allens.
Yeah, and I had to ask my wife about that one, and apparently that was Ken's friend. It was a figure that was discontinued just because it wasn't popular.
Right.
that we
My wife also had to fill me in on who Alan was. So you're not alone there.
right. But I'll go ahead. I want to give my number three. This is something I just watched actually pretty recently, and I think it's a must watch. Honestly, it's Silo. It's on Apple TV Plus, and I don't know. I think I brought it up on one of the episodes as well. Literally after I watched this, another one I stayed up to watch because all episodes were up, and I kind of just got taken in by it, and it's got Tim Robbins in there, so and I'm watching the story, and it's just a thriller drama, which is my favorite type of genre. And it was just really interesting about, again, for those of you that don't know, the basically what it is, the society has now been living underground for literally thousands of years, and they have no idea why they ended up there, how they ended up there, but they just know that they can't go outside because it's basically like poison, and they can't survive, so they stay in these big silos that have a couple tens of thousands of people, and you find out there are like hundreds of these like later on, but uh, really really interesting show, and you could probably tell like some people are trying to actually figure out what's going on and why, but definitely a must watch.
That also has, I want to say her name's Rebecca Ferguson, the lady who is Never Enough, Never, Never from Greatest Showman and the last couple Mission Impossible movies. Isn't she the main character?
Uh, yes, she is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought because like they were promoting that show right as Ted Lasso was ending,
Yep.
and I got rid of Apple TV, but it was like one of those like, oh, I should stay to watch this because you like you said, Tim Robbins and Rebecca Ferguson are in it. That would have me alone without even knowing the story or what it's about. But I'm glad to hear that it was good. And is it worth resubscribing to Apple TV?
Yeah, just give it a month subscription.
Sure.
Yeah, and this is a hot tip, for everyone, out there. If there are items on Apple TV or any streaming service, like typically what I usually will do is I'll go scope it out and see what's available, and then I'll go purchase a month, and I'll automatically go into my account settings and turn off automatic renewal. And that way I only
Good
have the
idea.
subscription for a month, because it's really the same price as if you're going to rent a movie for a night or buy a movie, right? 20 bucks each, 20 bucks, but you can watch how much content throughout the month. And so that's usually what I'll do.
I will probably do that, but I will also wait until Shrinking season 2 comes out and is done because Shrinking was a great show, and I think that was this year, right? The beginning of the year. If I was doing a TV list, that would be on my list for sure. But that's not my number three. My number three was a little movie that came out in September called The Creator that has, I always forget his name, but it's Denzel Washington's son as the main character. And this takes place in the future where a nuclear bomb was dropped in the middle of Los Angeles. And before the bomb was dropped, we were a society that was depending on robots and AI. And, the government is telling the world that the robots were the one that dropped the bomb, but they're obviously there's some suspicion behind that. But our main character is sent in to Asia or the Far East, where all the robots are kind of at, and there's a big world war happening between the two factions. And he's there as an undercover agent. He falls in love with a robot, but there's an attack. She dies. He's taken back to the States, and then a few years later he's sent back in to go find their secret weapon, and the robot secret weapon. And basically what it ends up being is this little girl robot, and it's all about him trying to get her out of this war zone. And I will say this, it is a very predictable movie just by that description alone. Matt, I can see your cogs turn. You probably have know what happens, but it's just so well done. It's very well directed. I watched it again last month when I was sick, and I actually even liked it better the second time. Not that the first time was bad. It just, I was catching little things that I missed before. I think it moves at a very, very quick pace. The action scenes are cool, but it's not like an action movie. It makes sense to the movie in the story why the action is happening. And I didn't really know about this movie up in only like a month before it released, and our mutual friend was telling me about it. And I actually went to see it on IMAX with him, which was great. So I believe we're recording this on December 18th, and on the 20th, it should be on Disney Plus. So be on the lookout for it. It's a great movie, and probably won't win any awards, but it certainly hit home. Not hit home, but it really grabbed my attention. I just found it to be very enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I was texting you, I know, today about it. I'm definitely gonna check it out. Although it does sound a lot like The Matrix,
It's
And
the
you're talking about dropping bombs. They don't know who dropped the bomb, Frank, but they do know who scorched the sky.
right, right. So I would say the initial setup, as far as like the war between the robots and the humans, is very much so. Yes, there's no question it's the Matrix, and I will, like I said, it's not only predictable, but it does borrow heavily from different science fiction movies. You'll probably be watching, you'll see something, you'll be like, yeah, I've seen that before, but it's done in a style where if you've ever watched like an anime, and it's definitely like that. And I probably lost half our audience just by saying that, but it's done uniquely, and uniquely enough where it's like, yeah, you've seen this story a couple times before, but it's different enough where you can still appreciate it.
I got you fired up there.
Not fired up, but I would fired up to agree with you. Yeah, and I'm glad you did bring that up because
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah. You're just an angry elf.
you're an angry elf. You're an angry elf. You know, you're like Nard eating the pita bread or whatever he's eating,
Yeah.
just snacking over there.
Uh,
Whatever. What's your number two? Shut up and get rolling with it.
my number two uh, has to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I am just in love with this series. This is the best thing Sony's put out in a while. And I really loved it. I bought it. I saw it in theaters. I bought it day one when it released. I got my kids hooked on it. And I cannot wait for part two of this series.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It would definitely make my top 10 if we were doing top 10, but it came down between that and Mario I knew what to expect going into Across the Spider-Verse. I didn't really know what to expect with Mario, so that's why Mario just narrowly edged it out.
I mean, that's fine, right? Everyone has different tastes. Some tastes are better than others.
Right. Not yours for the record.
Uh, but yeah, and I was looking at my list and I said, "Am I really going to put two animated films on here?" But the truth is, I was looking at the list and I'm looking at the movies that I've seen, and I was just like, there were some good movies, but I think this is actually was a better year for TV and
Mhm.
series than it was for movies.
There was a lot of misses this year as far as movies go, and when I was putting together this list, I thought immediately like, oh, probably the new Mission Impossible will be on there, but I think as good, it was good, but I think I was the hype leading up to it. I was more excited about it than the movie actually was good, if that makes sense.
No, I mean it does, and I was looking at other things, like John Wick, and I'm like, yeah, but I mean, you know what to expect with a John Wick
It was
movie.
good. Like I like John Wick 4, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, we're 4 movies in. It's a John Wick movie. It is exactly what it's billed as, and it does that specific thing very well. But it's just like it's John Wick at this
Yeah,
point.
right. How about what else you got on your list? What's number two for you?
Number two comes down to Godzilla minus one. I had no idea.
With the Godzilla.
Huh?
Again with the Godzilla.
You're just mad because I got to see it and you didn't. This is another one, kind of like The Creator. I had no idea this movie was coming, and it just was a great surprise to me. I didn't know really what to expect going into it, and it just fired off on all cylinders. It hit the right notes. It just was a great movie. If you want my full thoughts on it, listen to last week's episode. But man, I really enjoyed this movie, and I really can't wait to watch it again.
So you'll enjoy this. So my brother-in-law actually called me yesterday, blowing up my phone and asked if I wanted to go see Godzilla.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I had told him how we just reviewed it and how you loved it. You were talking about it on the last episode.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I didn't have time to go with him. I already had like plans and a busy
Sure.
day, and I couldn't just make time for it. But yeah, he was even asking about it. So word is definitely out on that. Definitely something I guess I'm gonna have to at least give it
Right.
one watch and see what it's like.
I was really pleased to see. So I saw it in the second weekend that it was in the United States, and that Monday they said, "Hey, we're expanding to more theaters because there's such a demand for it." And then again, and just again this past weekend, they announced again that they were expanding to even more theaters. So and the movie was made for like $15 million, and for a movie that wasn't necessarily like according to plan do well in the United States, it's just doing great, and you can't help but be happy for them and the success they're having. It's one heck of a great movie, so I wish them the best. And the director was actually saying, they're interviewing him, they're like, well, what about another one? And it's just like, no, just do another like reboot. Like leave this one alone and don't touch it. Like go tell another Godzilla story. Like leave these characters alone, because the movie is like, you get your beginning, middle, and end, and you get your like shock ending. Spoiler alert. There's a small like little twist at the end, but I've seen a few Godzillas enough to know like that's kind of par for the course. So you can have that ending and not do a sequel to it.
So and I thought of you too because on Hulu, I believe it is. There's a Godzilla show now.
Oh, I thought that was on Apple, the Monarch show.
Is it on Apple? It's on one of them. But
Yeah.
yeah, like the Monarch show.
Mhm.
I was thinking of you. I was like, maybe I'll watch this.
You should, and let me know how it is. I'm not real.
Probably won't. I was just being nice.
Right. Well, thanks for being nice. Don't watch it then. Get a lump of coal in your stocking as well. But I haven't heard anything on that show other than it's out. Like, you can go watch it. Like, no good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent. But it's based off of the American Godzilla movies, which I rewatched the Bryan Cranston one and its sequel, and it's just like, oof, like those are just not good movies.
Yeah, you can get into that. If you guys want to continue that conversation, check out last week's episode
Right.
that just released, because we did get into that, and we did talk about the different Godzillas.
Sure.
But moving on to my final one on the list, this one, you know, I know it's the third season, but Ted Lasso had to be at the top. There were just so many emotions uh, in this season. Is it season three?
Season 3. Yep, it's season 3.
Yeah, just so many emotions in this season. And if you watch like even like the reels on like TikTok or Instagram or whatever platform you're on, and you see the little Easter egg hunts that they brought to that final season when like everything finally hits, I mean, it was unbelievable storytelling. Something that Marvel needs to revisit.
They really do. I think in the new year we're now like have alluded to our audience enough. Like we're not pleased with the current state of Marvel. We need to do like the fall of the MCU episode, not in the new year.
That will be the next episode. You've heard it here first. We're
You've
gonna
heard it.
do a Goody Room lecture We're going to talk Marvel and DC and what we would do to change it.
Ooh, good episode. But let's get back to Ted Lasso because I also have some
Well,
thoughts.
that's why I said it's for next episode, Frank. Do you here? Let me do the thinking.
May
for
I
you.
do the thinking, please?
You may, but let the record show I'm not the only angry elf in the podcast tonight.
Hey, man, I just get emotional. Get excited about my foods.
Get excited about survive.
But what's your number one, Frank?
Well, wait. I want to applaud. Nope. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. It's my show too. I can say what I want. How do you like that? I want to applaud the people for Ted Lasso. Like they did a great job wrapping it up, and I think they stuck the landing. And I'm glad like they didn't keep dragging it out season after season, where it got to the point where it's like I don't even care that there's a new season. It was done years ago, so good for them for calling it early. But my number one would be Oppenheimer. I just Christopher Nolan is my favorite director of all time, and his last I don't know 2 or 3 movies, Tenet, Dunkirk, Interstellar, all well made, but not his best work. And I thought that Oppenheimer was a return to form from the Christopher Nolan that I fell in love with. I think we were in college when Dark Knight and Inception were coming out. So in the Prestige, high school, just hit after hit after hit. I thought he lost his touch for a moment there, but Oppenheimer just showed me nope, he's still got it. He just needed the right material. And, I thought he did a great job. Performances all around. Looking forward to seeing how it does this award season. But that would be my number one for the year for sure.
And just like that, Frank drops a bomb at number one. Oppenheimer. I mean, it didn't make my list. There were just some things I just like the things on my list, and like I said, just
Sure.
TV. I think it was just a better year for TV than it was, but definitely Nolan. I think this was. I believe I said it on that episode. This is his best work in a long time.
A long time. We've waited almost a decade of waiting for his next great one.
Yeah. But do you want to move on here to the next topic we got here? And we're going to talk holiday rewatch musts. So, some movies around this time of year, we alluded to some earlier. I would say those are probably honorable mention movies for us, but there are some rewatch musts on here. And I'm going to start it off with one of mine. Let's go a little give and take. We'll just keep popping them off. I'm going to start with mine. Home Alone 1 and 2. I don't give a crap about the other remakes and all this, whatever they want to do. If it's not Kevin McAllister, I don't want to see it.
Right. I'm also going to start off my list with Home Alone 1 and 2. I don't know. People, I know there's a few people out there that are like, well, you can only, which one's better? It's I don't necessarily see them as separate movies. I see them as one big one. I never watch one without the other. I like them probably equally just as much, and I like them for different reasons. I like the different characters. I will say though, as the older I get, Tim Curry's character as the concierge in the second movie gets funnier and funnier every year. There are just certain things that he does that he doesn't even have to talk. I just start cracking up.
The three of those guys together, right?
Yes.
Because
the hotel staff.
You got Professor McGonagall.
Oh yeah.
But yes, that and I totally agree. They each have, I think they're on their own playing field.
Right.
Hold up to each other. I do consider it just kind of one big movie as well.
Sure.
I like them both for their own reasons. And they're just fun to watch, and the kids love watching them and all the traps and stuff. And
the traps are great. When I was a little kid, all I cared about were the traps. But now, the older I've gotten, the rest of the movie is so funny. Catherine O'Hara as his mom is just hysterical the entire time. Like just how she's freaking out, but like also, her little one-liners to Kevin at the beginning of the movie. But then she's really the big heart of the movie, just trying to get her son back, and always just kind of, it's like a nice cup of cocoa, just warms the heart.
Yeah, and Home Alone is one of those movies that is featured in Netflix's The Movies That Made Us.
Oh
And
yeah,
go watch that because they talk about just how difficult it was to make this movie and just how unique it is and why it's really stood up to the test of time. We talk about in a lot of our episodes when we're reviewing movies, graphics. This is a time where you didn't use computer
all
graphics.
practical.
Yeah, all practical stuff. These stuntmen, these are guys that are falling down, getting hurt. So
Yeah.
I go watch it, go check it out because it is an interesting episode.
Harry and Marv are just, I feel like, it, if they were ever to do like a true sequel to Home Alone 2, it would be just like a Harry and Marv spin-off or something like that. But maybe not. I don't know. I think they work so well because they have their moments, and they don't overdo with them. But man, like the chemistry between Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, it's kind of like once in a generation. I would compare it to like how Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn have that great comedic chemistry together. You just don't see it all that often.
Yeah, and it reminds you, just how much inflation has gone up. Because Kevin goes to the grocery
Uh,
store and buys like a whole cart worth of groceries for 20
20
bucks.
bucks. And I want to know what the mortgage on that house was that they live in. And I also want to know what his dad did to afford like multiple years in a row, not just take his immediate family, his wife, and like what, 6, 7 kids, but like the uncle, their family. Like he's like, I'm taking everybody, I'm making it rain out here. And then has the audacity to be mad about the what is it, the room service bill. It's like, my guy, you can afford it.
I thought the same thing. I mean, you guys are staying at the Plaza Hotel. But
In a suite.
anyway, I know. Anyways, give me another one, Frank. What's one of yours?
I have to go with Jingle All the Way. It's double time.
It's you're my booster.
You know what? You're my Byron. you know?
Jingle All the Way is a hilarious movie, highly underrated.
It is. And that he's another one, Arnold Schwarzenegger, kind of like Ryan Gosling, always does like these serious roles, but whenever he does funny, he just nails it. Oh, and Jingle All the Way is like a tour de force of his like comedy. And when he's going into the sting operation, or the scam Santa Claus, like the banter between the Santa and him and the little L. Oh my god, it's so funny.
Yeah, and this has become almost like a recap of our episodes we've recorded so far this year because
Sure.
we talked about it on another one, collecting, right?
Yeah.
And if you're interested in that, go check out that episode. But we talk about collecting toys. We brought up Power Rangers and how our parents had to stand in line, and that's what gives it to me for this movie. Is it brings you back to a time where you had to go to the store,
Right.
stand in line to get these hot toys.
So, and I in the last couple of years, because we host Christmas, my dad and my mom will come out, and my dad and I the last couple of years have watched Jingle All the Way together. And there are parts where, he was like your parents, he was like forged in the gears of war as far as going to get the toy for Christmas. And he'll tell this story about, I think, getting a Cabbage Patch Kids doll for my one cousin, and like apparently some lady like clawed him in the face as he was like wrestling out of there. And so to me, watching it with him and him retelling those war stories makes Jingle All the Way, just it like elevates it to a whole nother level.
For sure. But gonna go ahead and get into the next one here that I had on my list. Uh, it, to me, this movie gets funnier with age. I didn't truly understand how funny it was until I became an adult and I rewatched it. But that is the Santa Claus with Tim
Oh.
Allen.
Yeah, and I someone pointed out on Facebook the other day that in that movie, Tim Allen's character, Scott Calvin, is like 36. And I kind of felt like personally attacked. I was like, whoa, because we're like that age now, or around that age. You know?
Yeah, but that whole first half of the movie where he's on the phone with his ex-wife, he's
Yes.
lying about the traffic. He's talking to her. He's like, "Get out of the way!" Oh, there's the problem. 4-car pile up, and it's completely empty. There's
love
no
it.
one around.
I love when they go to his house and they're doing that like that camera pan down that like fabulous looking dinner, and it just
That's my
you know,
favorite scene.
oh, it's so good. And he's like, "You like Denny's?" or whatever he says. So,
You like Oxobuco? Denny's. They're always open, and then you look around, it pans around to the restaurant, right? And it's all these dads with their kids in the restaurant.
Oh, and I love the dad that like waves at him that clear like just came out of the hospital. He's got like the cast on because he's like he burned the turkey too.
But that whole opening, like those whole scenes before Santa Claus actually gets introduced, like, and they start going on this like trip. That's to me the best part of the movie because he's cooking the turkey. He's like, that's why you want to have a high quality fire extinguisher right there in the kitchen.
I like I think one of my favorite parts of that movie is just how like he's constantly condescending towards Neil, the stepfather. And he's like, when he's bringing them both in for career day, and he goes, "Can my dad go first?" And Neil's like, "If that's how you feel, Charlie." Tim Allen gets right up in his face and goes, "Yes, Neil, that's how he feels." Like,
Right. But even then too, like those jokes are the best too, because like when they're driving to Denny's, he's like, the kid Charlie, he's like, "Neil, I like Neil. He listens to me," and Tim Allen goes, "Yeah." Then he charges you for it because he's a psychiatrist.
Right, that's right. So I know we didn't. I mean, are you good? Are you good on the Santa Claus?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Let's get into the next one.
So this wasn't originally one that I discussed with you, but it just in the last couple years, I have rewatched Christmas Vacation every Christmas. And growing up, so many people were telling me like how funny it was. And as a kid, I watched, I was like, I don't think it's funny. As an adult, it's, oh my gosh, like every year, kind of like the Santa Claus for me, it just gets a little bit better. And, not that I've had any like horrendous experience hosting my family for Christmas. I haven't, but just seeing what he's going through to make Christmas like happy, it's like I level with him, but also it makes me really appreciate how my parents, created the magic of Christmas for me growing up. And just to see Chevy Chase go through it, and it's endlessly, he's just so funny, especially with the Christmas lights. I don't know why I love that so much, but it just makes me appreciate what my parents did. And lets me know like, hey, when you're hosting Christmas, sometimes things just go, it's not going to work out. But just a funny movie.
So, hot take, I think it's the worst Vacation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So interesting take for me. Only Vacation movie I've watched.
Interesting.
Yeah,
You'll definitely have to check out the other ones. I know a lot of people would probably disagree, but my favorite's actually Vegas Vacation.
Oh, really? I hear that like that's like typically the most hated according to the Vacation people.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about, right? Yeah.
Right. I'm just kind of I'm at a point where I like Christmas Vacation so much, like I don't really need, why add to it? You know what I mean?
No, it's fine. And a lot of people watch it. I've never understood it. And
Sure.
I have other Christmas movies that I more relate to like that time of year. But hey, to each their own. Everyone likes their own things, which is why, it makes these conversations great.
Absolutely.
But moving into my next one, I'm going to bring up the Grinch. It could be any form of the Grinch. I'll watch them all. I'll watch the original cartoon version. I'll watch the Jim Carrey version. I'll watch the Illumination version. I love them all, and I think it really kind of gets you into the holiday season.
I will forever think that in the Jim Carrey version of the Grinch, whenever he's trying to decide whether or not he's gonna go down to the holiday party, and he's like going back and forth, back and forth.
Holiday Hoopy Buddy.
Yeah, the holiday Hoobie Wuddy. And there's that scene, that part where like it zooms up in on his face, and he goes, "What if it's a cash bar?" Which, as a kid, I had no idea what that meant. But now as an adult, it's like, man, if that's a cash bar, like that's an immediate out for me. It's like, well, no, like, I mean,
And that's
so funny.
again, it's another movie. Like you grow up and you really start to understand these adult jokes that are in
Yeah.
these movies, right? And I'll never forget over COVID, like this movie was meme central for
Yes.
COVID.
I
Like,
am I just eating because I'm bored?
right, right. Dinner with myself. I can't cancel that again.
I love it when he's up on the cliff with the phone book and he's like, "I double hate you. Hate, hate, hate,
Right.
hate, hate." You know, just-
I did that with our friend group. Hate, 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 hate.
So we just watched. We introduced our son to the original cartoon, which he sat through the. Not that it's like ungodly long, but he sat through the whole thing and seemed to like it. But I think the best part about the old cartoon is the dog Max's reaction to everything that's like going on. They really animated that well, and I find the dog very funny. He's funny in the other ones too, but I think he's funniest in the original cartoon.
Yeah. So tell me what else is on your list? Any other goodies?
I had, like there's a lot of honorable mentions, but I think the last one that I really would say, hey, have to watch it, just funny, is Elf. Will Ferrell is just, you know, there's a reason why he's still in the zeitgeist and still in a big, like, this man is just endlessly talented and endlessly funny. Um, point in case, the scene when he's like at the doctor, the pediatrician, the doctor, and he's eating the cotton balls and just like all the interactions there, like you could just show that scene alone and have no idea what the movie's about, and you'd still be laughing because it's just so absurd.
Right, and actually, fun fact, I mentioned the movies that made us in the same season because they did like a holiday season. They do Elf, and they talk about actually no idea that movie was really difficult to make too. It almost didn't happen.
Right. In
Um,
fact, funny that you mentioned that because Jim Carrey was originally offered the title role, and not that he wouldn't have done a good job, but just I'm happy. I think it lends itself more to Will Ferrell's type of humor.
right, and well, Will Ferrell wasn't even a big movie star. This was his
Yeah.
first big movie.
They put him on the map. Yeah.
And it put him on a same with John Favreau. This was his first kind of big like directing role, and there was a lot of trust in what they wanted to do. And this is actually ties in with my final one. Yeah, so I'll just mention it kind of in tandem with this because really the inspiration for Elf came from the original claymation Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And they were trying to get permission from those creators because they were going to use a lot of references. And if you watch it, it's I didn't even have to watch the movies that made us to know that's where the inspiration
The
came
aesthetic came from. Yeah.
the sets, the costumes. They even have a snowman that talks.
Right. One thing on Rudolph, I will never not laugh at Yukon Cornelius throwing his pickaxe, pulling it up, licking it, and going, "Nothing."
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I think our friend Steve when I think of Yukon Cornelius.
Especially with Steve's like big bushy beard. Yeah, he is the living embodiment of Yukon Cornelius.
Right.
I like how in Elf, Will Ferrell is doing his non-rated R humor, but it still manages to be laugh out loud hysterical, and that just is a for his talent. It's a true show of talent where kind of like Robin Williams, I can be in these kid movies, I can be in these adult movies. It doesn't matter. Like you come watch this, you will be laughing. Doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah, and we talk about that all the time. There are some actors who are great in anything they're in, and one guy I really wish was in more kind of dramas is John C. Riley because I think he's just a phenomenal actor. But
Oh yeah,
as more
absolutely.
of a comedian guy, actually with Will Ferrell, right? Talladega Nights, Step Brothers.
Step Brothers. Oh, Step Brothers. I don't think they'll ever top that. But when they announce like, hey, they're working together, I'll never not be excited. I'll watch that movie.
Yeah, but the movies that made us, they do an episode, like I said, on Alpha. In that, go check that out too, because again, it's another interesting story. Like I said, it almost didn't happen because they didn't get the permissions, and even lawyers were asking, "Well, how influenced are you by this movie?" And it's like, "Well, we're pretty influenced," and they did little things to try and like not show that they were copying it. Like Will Ferrell, like his alfalfa instead of green, it was going to be blue. They had him wear actually they did 2 shots of every scene in case
Mhm.
they had to go back.
Wow. Yeah, and I remember watching that, but it's been so long that I've kind of forgotten about that. Maybe I need to rewatch some of those movies that made us episodes. I agree. They also do a like the toys that made us, but that's a great show too. It's a topic for another time. But man,
Well,
I
that's
think.
why I do the thinking, Frank.
Oh, shut up. You know what? I have nothing else to say this episode other than Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Merry Christmas to you too, Frank, and a Happy New Year.
Yeah. And maybe Merry Christmas to I think the last video we uploaded, there was 9 views. So our nine people out in the audience, thank you so much. Happy holidays. Thank you for supporting us.
Well, update, Frank. It's 10 now because our
Oh,
friend Cody, his handle is Cody on 376 for those of you that want to know. But he watched it and he was actually texting us today. So 10. So, but yes, Merry Christmas to our listeners, our fans. We appreciate you. Continue to give us the support. Remember to like and subscribe, follow. And hey, we'll catch you next time. Same streaming time, same streaming platform. Later, everybody.